Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well, and welcome to tonight's second half. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go, and folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to tonight's second half, shall we? All right, folks, during this interview, this subscriber, her name is Oz, talks about a couple of photos. The photo that you are seeing throughout the upload is one of the photos she mentions in this upload. I just wanted to share that I did not get or receive any others except this one. All right, everybody, today I have a subscriber who reached out to me via email. With some we've had a very interesting conversation so far. Oz, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you, Jeff?
I'm very well. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to share with us. We've talked about a lot of different other things besides your encounter, so I'm kind of in the fog of what your encounter is. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you. And that way you can share what you want with us today.
All right, sounds good. Well, the first encounter I had was about when I was 5 or 6 years old, and it was in New York State. And generally, I don't remember too much going on in my life at that time, but this made a major impression on me because it was that petrifying. We were out camping, like my family often did, up in the mountains. And this one year, we had brought another family member and their children with us. And we went all off. The children, and sorry about that. The children and the other children and I, who are all older than me, up till I'd say about 13 years old, there were about 6 of us, we're just allowed to walk around the woods near the campsite. And we came upon this area that we hadn't seen before. And it was like a rocky overhang, and it jutted straight down in a cliff, probably about 30 feet. And one of the middle cousins decided it would be a cute idea to kind of shove me over the edge. And yeah, nice. And I'm sliding on the gravel trying to get up, and they're teasing me and joking that maybe there's snapping turtles down there, anything to get a rise out of me. I managed to get my foot on a sapling that was kind of growing horizontally, and the oldest of the cousins decided he was going to try and help me up, but I only kept sliding back on the gravel. Then I saw all of their faces kind of get this bizarre look to them, and nobody would tell me anything. And some of them ran off to go get the adults because they were just not having luck getting me. up, and there were noises down there like something was walking around. Now, when they were all gone, except for the one, my cousin that was about a year older than me, who was frozen back about 5 feet against a tree, there was something jumping up. And I turned and I looked, and it was a really scrawny, extremely large dog. In my head, at that point in time, I didn't know what this was, and I'm sliding, it's jumping, maybe reaching about 5-6 feet below my heels, and the more I would see this, the more I'd start sliding, and I'm getting really, really scared, yelling, crying, and it said something to me, I think out loud, maybe in my head, and it said, "Come down." And yeah, and I just kept trying to scramble, but at that point it became futile. I would just slide more, and it was at the point where my feet were hanging down more, and it kind of got to the edge of that sapling and pulled on it. I don't know if there was a branch hanging down or anything like that, and it said, "I'm going to eat you." This could be my imagination, being that young, but this is, what I remember having happen. And when my mother finally got there, the look on her face, all the color had drained, and she rushed me up and brought me back and refused to talk about it for years. But I kept hearing, having these nightmares of this consistently through my life. And I'd ask about it. I'd get no response until probably when I was like 15 or 16 years old. I finally sat down and I said, "Mom, what happened that time we went camping? Because we don't go anymore." And she got that same drained color to her face. I said, "Was there a really big dog?" Because that's what I remember having happened. And she kind of looked at me and she just said, "There's things out there that we just don't know what they are." And that was my very first encounter with any Dogman creatures. And then it goes probably about, my next sighting was, I'd probably be about 23, 24 in northern Georgia before I had really encountered anything like that again. And it was we were out camping.
Now,
running.
I don't mean to cut you off. Prior to your next encounter, there was no discussion of this in that your first encounter after that? You kind of did the adults or?
No, everybody got that quiet, awkward adult silence,
Okay.
that we're not going to acknowledge. It's like everybody. It was 6 of my aunts and uncles and my cousins, minus the one that we had just brought with us that time that had shoved me over. None of them went camping anymore.
Okay.
There. And it was a yearly thing that we all got together over Memorial Day.
Right. All right.
And
so that pretty much ruined the whole family yearly vacation trip, kind of.
Yeah, and it was a shame because it was something everybody loved. They had the Don King. I don't know if you know who Don King is. The hair, the next morning when you wake up with that camping hair.
Yeah.
And it was a shame, but sadly, even though he was troubled to begin with, the one that shoved me off, he did end up committing he's no longer with us. And that happened a couple of years afterwards. I don't know if it had anything to do with that incident, if that added to things. But so it really, everything came to a head, and
That was
just
a
nobody.
traumatic time for your family. So, I mean, this was not, because you were talking about how you had, as a little kid, you thought maybe it was your imagination that it said it wanted to eat you. This affected your whole family for, a while.
Yeah, and Little Red Riding Hood was one of my favorite stories growing up too. Like up until that point, that was like my Halloween costume in preschool the year before it happened, but no more.
Right.
No.
Right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off on. I just
Oh
wanted
no, you're good.
to clarify that too. So.
Yeah, you're good. When we're going through these things in our heads, we don't always realize how jumping we are and when it's stressful. So with the second encounter, I had just gotten a Presa Canario to go with my pit bull, and we were camping in North Georgia, running the dogs, kind of teaching them how to hunt hogs, because my pit bull was of that stock, and that's what she was really bred to do, was take out hogs. And my boyfriend at the time would take her hunting, and Georgia has a big hog problem. But that night, and walking through the woods, the sounds and the stillness that everyone talks about, it just had that feeling from the minute we got on that property that something wasn't right. And then to hear the same kind of noises I had heard back all those years, it really stuck with me that, okay, maybe this is someplace we just shouldn't be. And we kind of didn't have a direct on sighting at that point, but took off, cut that part early, and went down to visit some friends that were closer to Macon, and then just came home without anything going. But it just kind of put a chill in my spine that, okay, it's not just New York. These things are down here. And, it's kind of mind-blowing, the expanse of the country, that everyone has these experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And then living down in Florida, it wasn't long after my first incident that we had moved down to Florida. And I can't say exactly that that's why we moved, because we didn't really live in the area of the first encounter. But where am I going with this? Oh my goodness. My mind just blanked. I'm
That's all right.
sorry.
Take your time.
Down in Florida, and I start hearing similar yips and noises that aren't quite coyote based. And one night I go out to take the trash out, and I see eye shine over a 6-foot privacy fence. Now, what was odd about this eye shine was it was almost like 2 LEDs, that bluish white, and beforehand it had been amber, or not quite red, but like a darker amber shade was what I was used to seeing. And I got some photos of that, which I'm willing to share. And they were standing about, when it was on all fours, probably about 5.5 feet tall.
So this is beyond your privacy fence, like in your backyard?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, this is in front of it.
Okay.
And because they were definitely taller than the garbage bins that they give us down here, which They're about 4.5 feet tall, and this was above where they would normally stand, and they were down at the curb.
Okay.
So I knew it wasn't anything reflecting off of the plastic, and there was absolutely nothing between these two houses to give a reflection like this. So I shot off a couple of photographs, and no flash or anything like that, and it picked up from the street lights just the two giant eye shines. A little while later, I went back out trying to replicate it, and I saw something standing up above the fence, and this is a 6-foot privacy fence. It was at least a head over it, and it had the same distance between the eyes. The following day, I had gone out in daylight to try and take more photographs just to rule out that maybe it was a plant or anything like that, and nothing. Around this time, we had started hearing something on the roof it sounded like a man walking around. It wasn't like a cat or anything small like that, a raccoon. And I could never debunk these images, so I really don't know. I know one night, now we have cats, and they were making noises I'd never heard them make. They were just petrified, and I went out and I had taken some photographs through the sliding glass door, which is tinted, and it picked up something that was like very pale, like a grayish, light tawny colored, standing, I'd say about 4 feet tall, kind of crouched down. And that's really when I started just guarding myself outside more. I wouldn't go out at night as much. I worked around that time. I was working until 4:00 in the morning, and I would just book it right into the house, after scanning my surroundings, because down here I'm not armed. I have reasons for that, but just felt it better to go ahead and just stay in the house until my eyesight was better in the daytime. Since then, I've seen what look like really large dogs swimming across the water behind my house. Occasionally, we still get the sounds of something really heavy landing on the roof and walking around a bit, but it hasn't been too bad since past 3-4 months ago. It seems to have quieted down. Now, I've moved around a little bit, and I always come back to Florida. I did move to Oklahoma for a period of time, and we lived in northwest Tulsa County, almost on the border where there's a lot of farmland. It's very rural. It's not like what you would think of Tulsa being a city per se. And on my birthday, right after I had my oldest, we sat out on a blanket, and this is something I totally forgot about when we were speaking earlier. And we were just enjoying the night. It was not quite a full moon. You still had plenty of moonlight out there. But this property was 2 farms put together. So there's a horse paddock, and then there was a really thick wood line on the south end of the neighboring farm. And all of a sudden, we started hearing the twigs break. and looking around, trying to see what was around. Now, coyotes are normal out there. No big deal. We each had a bat, and I had my sidearm just in case. And that was a Glock subcompact 40. And something just started to feel really not right. Like, the unease was more than I had felt anywhere else. Everything was quiet. All the animals were quiet. You had goats, chickens, which were sleeping already, the chickens. But the horses started making really strange sounds. And my father, or my children's father, was like, oh, well, we're armed enough. Coyotes aren't going to be able to surround us like this. But I noticed the closer they got, when I had shown the flashlight, it was a lot larger than a coyote. Now, it was jet black, and I did catch red eye shine on this one. I didn't get to see the other ones with it, but I didn't catch but one coyote, and they were starting to circle around us, and I'm urging him to go in. I'm like, it's nice out here. We've had some time. Let's just go back in, because we don't need to be messing with all of this. And in the time it took us to get about the 30 yards, 40 yards to the porch, these things had advanced so quickly, and you could then see up against next to one of the coyotes, it was easily triple the size of the one coyote that I did manage to see, and they were trying to flank us really hard. There was another sighting I had. Now, I wouldn't say the name of the creature because it's a Native American thing, but I guess some people refer to it like an owl man or something.
Yeah.
And I had seen one of those out in the paddock, and my daughter's father, he's Cherokee and Wyandotte, and he wouldn't even tell me the name of it, but that one rattled him more than seeing the Dogman coming in closer to us out there. The only other incident I had out there, because I didn't stay out there too long, it was the next year, and I was really, really pregnant. It was about 107 in the shade earlier that day, and I decided I was going to take a bath. And the bathroom had these gigantic windows out into the side yard. It was kind of dusky out at that point, and I was home alone, and something started tapping on the bathroom window and kind of dragging it out. Their dogs were whining and in the corner, and this is a Malamute and a Husky, and they were fearless of, well, at least the Malamute was. The Husky was, a big fluff ball of energy, but the whining from them, and suddenly I start to see lights, like red and blue police lights. Now, I don't know if that was a human being doing this, because I had the curtains open. Maybe I had a peeping Tom. But when I had gotten myself together, switched the light off, and went to see what was going on, there were a bunch of blacked out vehicles in front, not your standard Tulsa police. So I never got answers on that. I tried to crack the door and ask, and they just, ordered me back inside, stay away from windows, keep the lights off.
Wow.
So that one, unknown.
Yeah.
But the way the dogs were acting, if it was a human being, they would have been making a lot of ruckus instead of cowering.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and a Malamute and a Husky are, very vocal anyway. So,
Yeah.
and
And I mean, Bear was not named Bear for any other reason than he was a massive dog, but just to hear him cry and whine, in the 5 years I knew that dog, he never once showed fear like that. Or even if he wanted something and you said no, some dogs will whine at you to try and get it, not him. And I mean, I'm glad they were okay, but watching the agents jumping over the fences and going after whatever it was fast. Could have been a person. I don't know if they were all in black as well. But that's just something I don't know. It definitely made my blood run cold on that end, because I was home alone and only had a shotgun there with me and my 40, but it's just one of those, I'll never know the answer to that one. Right. But it seems like these things follow people. Once you have that experience, it doesn't matter where you go. You just keep finding them.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, but then there's the people that only have one encounter and that's it. But yeah, for some reason, some people do have multiple encounters.
God bless the ones that don't know. Yes. Keep it that way, guys. Keep it that way. You don't want to.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can touch on a little north in the United States, and these guys are a constant. Yeah. They're always, I won't say what state, because I've already had an incident with some people thinking that they knew all about them and that nothing could harm them, and we ended up, they have a restraining order against them, and we had to call the police a couple of times on them because they just were so insistent on going on my neighbor's properties to try and figure out and get pictures, watch them. I don't even know what they were thinking, because to be up there, it's like a hot war zone 24/7. You're on a swivel. I'll say the Sasquatch up there, they're very playful. My neighbor has a kennel, and they'll sometimes let him the dog out of the big dog run, and they'll bring him back. But which is hilarious to me that, they'll do this, and, never had a problem with them. But the Dogmen, the werewolves, which you can definitely tell a difference between them. I don't trust them, and the Dogmen have shown challenging behavior. Unfortunately, we always have to go out armed. It's just not something, it's a way of life, and it's interesting, but it's not safe. It's not something I recommend anybody ever do. You don't want to go looking for them. Just trust the people that have had these experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Now, you said that you're going to share some photos. So what I'll do is, when you email me the ones that you're willing to share, I have a community post, and I'll post them in that. That way people can check them out.
Okay.
I do appreciate that. I really do.
Of course, I do want people to know, like, for your safety. Oh, I didn't get into, I'm sorry.
No.
Now, where I am in Florida, they've just finally started admitting to the coyotes being here, but they are not coyotes. I am going to share photos that I took of them on all fours, and then a few frames later you have them standing upright and really baring their teeth. And this is right in people's backyards. There's a small stretch of probably about, I apologize for the car, about 25, 35 foot wide stretch of grass that runs about 2 miles where people bike, and then there's a couple of playgrounds, and it runs into the Everglades. This is right in suburbia. You have it's a mix between, higher end homes and your middle America, and they're coming over. I don't know if they're coming from the Everglades. I assume that's it, but it just shows you that they'll come into the semi-rural suburbs. I guess rural suburbs are semi-rural, but they'll come wherever they need to be.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I just, want people to be careful and listen to their instincts. And, it's not just a story. I wish it was. And they're all over the world as well.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Now, the coyotes, when you saw the coyotes for the first time, what was that experience like?
The ones in Florida or the one in Oklahoma?
Yeah, the ones in Florida.
They don't look like coyotes. They look like a cross between a wolf and a German Shepherd.
Okay.
They've got the markings, like the football players put the grease under their eyes and things like that. Their snouts aren't terribly long, but they're more of a very pale tawny with a lot of black markings on them, and they are large. Almost like that one video that circles around about the giant black dog that was chasing that hunter's dog. I'm sure.
Yeah.
They're between that size and maybe like a foot shorter. They are, anyone that's saying these are coyotes, it may be on steroids and it drinks protein powder for its diet. I don't know what to say, because they are massive. And there's about 15 that I saw. And in the photo, I did circle where, some of them were, and then the next photo, you could see a couple of them and you'd recognize the markings on the face where they're standing.
Okay.
But, some of them are scrawny looking in my experience, and then you get the other ones that are just jacked. I'm not sure what the difference is between that. But I've seen all ranges and weights between, maybe it's a juvenile and it hasn't put on its weight yet, or it's a different subset of the Dogman and the werewolf, but they're real. And I have seen them with Dogman with bobtails. Excuse me. So I'm not sure what that is. I had heard that on another episode of yours, and I was like, wait, I've seen that. I thought those were werewolves, but everything else didn't fit about the face and the build. But they've had shorter tails than that 2 to 3 foot tail. I'm not sure what's going on, but that's from the northern property. I've seen that mix going on. Maybe they're interbreeding. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, who does know? That's why it's all based on theory, and I can never say that word theory too many times, because we don't know, and that's kind of what makes this exciting, because we at least get to have our own theories on them, and just with what you've seen, I'm sure that you've got your own theory and, what goes on. And But
Yeah.
really quick, I just wanted to touch on something.
Hmm.
We were talking for a little bit, and you know, you had mentioned something, and we don't have to get into your experiences with it or not, but we were just talking about these other creatures that were seen in um, the United States with their pale white. And I
Uh,
had mentioned my theory about portals, and I, sometimes I do really think that maybe Sasquatch and the Dogman are here to protect the earth from whatever comes out of these portals, because there's definitely some real creepy stuff that comes out of them.
I would definitely agree with that. No, were you referring to outside my house with the
Yeah,
one
yeah,
disappearing?
yeah.
All right. I had come outside after work, and it was so nice. And this is Florida again for everyone. And I was just taking some times, and all of a sudden I heard a little bit of noise out in front of my house. Sounded like an animal walking around a little bit, but the scent that you really can never forget that stench. It's just one of a kind. And all of a sudden I saw it take off to the south and come out from behind my car. It leapt. I never did get to see a head because it was only about maybe 2.5, 3 feet from behind the end of my car. And I saw the tail end of the legs and its tail go right into something, and it just vanished. It leapt a little bit, maybe about 3 feet off the ground, and it was just gone. I went up to the sidewalk thinking maybe it was a fox, because there's a abandoned golf course not too far away, and I looked on the sidewalk thinking this is not going to be something too dangerous, and it was just gone. There was nowhere for it to hide. It was just gone.
Yeah.
It blew my mind.
Yeah, and when you told me that, when you shared that with me, is when that popped into my head, because I was just like, wow, I've back to that word theory, and I
Yeah,
really think that that could be one of the reasons why these creatures are here, is maybe
yeah.
to protect not us, but nature from whatever the heck these things are coming, because they are not right and they're not normal.
No, it's definitely not normal or right, anything about it, because I have a hard time just knowing that they were here forever, and then suddenly there's these, like you said, portal type things. I don't know if it's magnetic anomaly, whatever it is. There's too many people that have seen too many things like this, and going into Native American culture, it jives. It really just, it's cohesive in how they could move around like this, and the abominations.
Yep.
I've seen in a couple of places, one being New Orleans. No, I don't drink. And also in Georgia as well on that same trip. I'd seen a humanoid figure that was almost phosphorescent, or not phosphorescent, like just glowing white, because it was so pale that I don't know what it could possibly be, and I did not hang out to find out or investigate that due to the feeling in the woods and having heard the Dogman sounds.
Right.
So I don't have photos, don't have answers, and I only have so many pictures because I'm so accustomed to them now that it's just one of those things that if I'm not in immediate danger, I'm not in shock. So taking a picture isn't a big thing. And Sometimes they wave. I don't know what that is. Or if they're just sticking their hand up to try and look like a tree,
The Dogman you're talking about, right?
Yeah, the Dogman. Yeah, I have so many images where they've got their hand up, almost like they're waving at me.
Right.
And
that's strange.
I did have another experience that just recalled, and this was with my daughter. Hold on, can you pause it a second?
Yep.
I'd taken a hike out in California, and it's totally different terrain than I'm used to. Very sandy with the scrubby brushes and some kind of overhanging, not really caves, but there were gigantic I could see a lot of black creature movement that was just darker than dark. And I can share this as also, there was something, I'm not sure if it's a different type of a Sasquatch or what it was, but behind it, it seemed to have a Dogman as a pet or a companion, and you could see over its shoulder the Dogman's face, but whatever this thing's face was, I only got one good shot of it, and then it hopped down and hid, but they're everywhere, and this thing was extremely quiet. I heard more in the trees from other things that I could never really get a good beat on, but this one seemed to kind of fade, like it was phasing in and out, and the portal talk was what had gotten me thinking about it, because I had just come down that way. I never saw either of these when I walked by that overhang of the outcropping and the rocks, and suddenly they're phased in there, if you want to use that term. I don't know if that's a little too out there, if they just, had a different way to come up and I didn't notice it, but it was really interesting. And on the edges of it, you could see how it's kind of blurred. And anyone's guess is as good as mine on that, but that's a face I'll never forget on the bigger creature. It was more ape-like looking than any Sasquatch I'd ever seen.
Now, how large would you say it would be?
Maybe if it stood up, it could have been about 6 feet tall.
Okay.
Because I'm tall myself, and it was definitely bulkier and larger than I was, because I had photographs of myself near the rock, and as it was sitting, it was definitely taller than me at that point when I was standing there or climbing down. So
yeah, that's creepy. That definitely, especially having a companion of a Dogman.
Yeah. I can look for better shots of the Dogman with it, but I do have one at the ready.
Yeah, whatever you have. Don't put yourself out and waste time. Too much time. What I was gonna probably do is I can share 5 pictures per community post, so I could probably do 2 community posts and attach it to this video.
All right.
That way people can get kind of what you're seeing. You shared a picture with me. I don't know if that's a picture I can share or not.
That one, unfortunately, no, that's not my photograph.
All right.
I did ask.
I'll wait for your pictures to come in, and then I'll put one of those pictures in with this video, so we have a picture, one of your pictures for the backdrop of this video.
All right, yeah, and I'll just send the ones I had pulled that were the clearest, and you can decide which ones you want to add up there. And I did send a couple more, for questions with Victor, if he was so inclined.
In the email, let me know what I can share and what I can't share.
Okay.
All right. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the audience before we end the interview?
Well, it's just, if you're enjoying nature, please don't stop. But also, just be careful. And if you happen to move in on an area that they, are on your property, be extra, extra careful. You do need to be armed because you never know what's going to happen. And with children and animals, they're animals themselves. You don't know their temperament at all times. And then also, if you start hearing reports of coyotes or mountain lion coming into your area, wolves, kind of take special note of that it might not be what they seem, because they do seem to have an interest in keeping this information from the public, and we just want everyone to be safe. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it was great having you on. I appreciate everything. Don't hang up. I want to talk to you for a few minutes before we let each other go. So I'm going to end the interview now. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
And there you have it, folks. Tonight's second half, which I do hope you all enjoyed as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support that keeps the channel growing and going, and what gives us a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free, just treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and they are dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Till next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.